all over the world, all over the world. And trauma is a serious, serious issue. In every given year, out of 5 people, 4 people will go through mental health problems. Out of 5, 4. If you look at how many people we are here, you can count 1, 2, 3, 4. On the 5th one, you know what is happening. That is the only one that we can say is okay. 4 people within any given year are going to suffer mental health problems. The problem also is many of them are not treated. Most of them are not treated. Either they will try to survive on their own, or others will do what we call self-treatment. That means they'll try to look for something to drink, behavior problems, and especially among the young people. If it is men, they will go into what we call masculinity masking. They will just cover themselves. They become the lions of the house and a groomer kwa nyumba. But the issue is they are sick. They are just sick. But at a groomer, they will be angry with everybody. But people do so many things to cover up what is going on in their lives. The other problem is the stigma associated with the mental health problems. People think that people are mad. That if you accept you're going through challenges of mental health, that people may think that kichwa imefanya nini? Imeruka. No. And this is why people stay with it longer and then they never find help. So the condition becomes worse and worse with the time. Is that in the Bible? Yes, I anchor it very well in the Bible. Because everybody gets traumatized. Everybody gets traumatized. Everybody goes through stress. There are so many stressors in life. At workplace, in the office, even in church. Everywhere we are, there are stressors. But the issue is, if they begin to stay with you longer than normal times, then they begin to indicate something else. Any trauma that remains with you for beyond 1 month, it begins to indicate PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And when we are talking of post-traumatic stress disorder, we are talking of a serious condition of anxiety. Now, every single one of them, trauma does not just sit there and wait. It keeps becoming worse with time. And unless we are able to make intervention, look for help, which many people don't do. I can tell you the families that I deal a lot with, because I'm doing this every day, it is the middle class and the upper class. People who understand, and especially people from other countries. I have people from US, I have people from Europe. I think it's like a class war. Because there are people who are on a lower cadre who really have to be pushed by their family members that you have to do this. And some are asking, why do I need to do it? I want to ask you a question. Have you ever sought for any help on mental health at any given time in your life? Have you ever reached out to someone? They don't have to be a professional. But reach out to someone to say, I want to talk about something. I'm going through something and I want to talk about it. Have you ever done that? You know, in class we don't pretend. We just are ourselves. As we keep pretending, we are losing people. People are dying. Trauma kills. Are you seeing in the news today how many people kill each other? Church elders, pastors. You wake up in the morning, they shoot. This last week, I'm dealing with a family that the husband is trying to shoot people in the family. He has a gun. So he tried to shoot until people have to go to different houses. Blessed families with homes, many homes. So one lives in that home, the other one lives in that home because one is threatening to shoot the other. And as this is happening, people think it is normal, it's ordinary. And when it is happening, every single day, people are killing themselves, suicide cases. Every 40 seconds, a person takes their life. Every 40 seconds. For men, globally, 510,000 men take their lives every single year. And from my radio programs, the people that I find calling me a lot about suicide are not women, they are men. And the people who are able to carry out the plan to completion are actually men because they are good planners. Women, they keep postponing it. I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. And you know, women are different than men. I deal with this when I deal with the couples. Women are different from men. But women will feel like they want to do it. They'll think about the children. They'll think about their lives. They'll think about their mothers. And they keep postponing. I met one person who had postponed for 7 days. Every day they said, I'm doing it tomorrow. Then tomorrow they don't do it. They move it to the following day. A whole week went. And then this person had me on radio and made a phone call. Can I shock you? Every person who walks through my office door about trauma, I always ask them the same question. Have you ever tried suicide? Can I shock you? Almost all of them have thought about, what am I doing here? Why should I leave? I need to check out. It's all because of trauma that was never treated. It becomes worse with time. Have you ever heard this? Time is the best healer. How many people of you have heard that? Time is the best healer. Now, that's a lie. Time is not the best healer. When it comes to the mental health problems, time can be your worst destroyer. Because as what starts as trauma develops to PTSD. And anxiety is a serious condition, and I'll be talking about it right now. And what I'll be saying to you, I want you to measure it on the standard of your own life. Anything I say today, put yourself in the picture. Say, am I going through that? Do I feel like this sometime? Am I among the 4 out of 5? Okay? Because people who are taking their lives, they come from all kinds of the society. The high end, the low end, the learned, the ignorant, old and young, children, some very, very young, but they know it. Some of your children could be in the internet, in the pages. Today we have a page called Suicide Group in the internet. And sometimes your children become part of that group. And there are times when they are told, this is the time for so-and-so to take their own lives. And you hear a child has taken their life, you wonder what happened. Or a child got a gun and shot other people in the family. Because we know where the guns are kept. My father used to have a gun. And I used to go pick it. And for me, it was just like a toy. Later is when I realized how dangerous that could have been. But later he took me through how to use it and how dangerous it can be. But how many children in families, they have access to guns because they are on the higher end of the society, yet they can pick that gun and shoot family members like what is happening in America, and nobody will do anything about it. It only indicates the serious case of trauma which has not been dealt with. That is why we stem it at the low level when it is just beginning. In trauma issues, we don't say it is very literal. We say no. If trauma is already there, we need to deal with it. Children begin having trauma when they are so young, like this age or even younger. 60% of adult trauma started as children. I will say that again. 60% of adult trauma started as children. Problems that were ignored. And today I will be talking a little bit about children. Children are among the most ignored members of our society, of our churches, of our families. And I'll give you the example why. When there's death in the family, adults come to console the adults. Have you seen that? They come to Kanagani, they say, we are very sorry. We are with you. Kanagani's children are there, nobody talks to them. They are only there to be seen. And I want to pose a question to you. Are children suffering trauma? No? No? Chairman of the board of education? You said no? Yes, they are. Deep trauma. They suffer grief and loss. And today I'm going to show you how children process. I want to focus on this today. This is wide. What I'm saying, I'll touch on key areas. It's what I normally do for over a whole week. Then people go out for practical work. They come back for advanced. Then I certify. And I do this program with American Bible Society, with whom I am a master facilitator with ABS. So what I'm going to do within one session of 1 hour is so minimal, so minimal. So I'll just touch on key areas which will help you to gauge yourself and see whether do you need help. Are you sitting on a time bomb which can blow you up? People walk through the doors of the church every single Sunday with the trauma inside, then they walk out, including children. They walk in, they go through the worship, they jump in the praise and worship, they sit in the church board, they serve in ushering, they serve in ministries, all kinds of ministries. At the end of it all, they walk out of the door and the trauma is still inside. Every Sunday, every week, every month, year after year. When it will blow up, that is when we say, we always used to think he was okay. But he was not okay. When something happens, that's when we run. And I hear this lie all the time. We didn't know it was that serious. By the time we make that statement, we have lost a family member. According to World Health Organization, mental health problem is epidemic, more serious even than. Everybody has this one. I wish people could have this one for there. Trauma is more serious than COVID-19. It's only a few years ago that the government started giving it the attention it requires in this country. It was among the most ignored. Thank God for the current government and our president. He gave it the place and the exposure it needed. That people may know that this is a problem that is happening and we need to begin doing something about it. No government did it before. This government has done it. The matters of mental health are right now more exposed. County governments are coming up with real hospitals, departments to deal with this problem. Universities, colleges, they are coming up with this. Many universities, they have a doctor who is taking care of the students. And I find this in the Western countries. But when you come home, this thing is ignored. This is the time when it's beginning to become part of our society. So we need to be able to deal with it and be able to give it the exposure it requires and also try to move away from the stigma associated with trauma. The question I pose to you today is, what is trauma? What is trauma? I said in the morning that definitions and minute details are very, very important. Success is found in definitions and minute details. If you want to be a successful person, be a person of definitions and details. In a big picture, look for the small details. That is where the success is. So let's start by breaking it down. Trauma, I'll give it two definitions. One of them is scientific. The other one is normal. I don't know which one to start with. Let me start with the simple one. Trauma refers simply to a hurt wound. A hurt wound. I'll just try to make this as easy as possible. We don't want any complicated words. Very, very simple. Trauma, in simple terms, is a hurt wound. That's why I asked the question that you didn't lift up your hands, but I know where you will lift up your hand. Hurt wound. Where does it come from? Why hurt wound? If you have been through grief and loss, you have been traumatized. If somebody has attacked you at your workplace, you've been through grief, you've been through trauma. If you have been through rape, and let me dwell a little bit on rape. These are key areas that I deal with. Out of every 3 women, 1 woman has been raped. Out of how many? 3. How many? Including girls. Out of every 3 girls. Including serious cases of fondling. This is not a Sunday school. Are we in a Sunday school? You know, I say right now I'm a doctor. Doctors talk about everything, okay? All right? This is not a Sunday school class, all right? I talk about it in a way no kid will understand what I'm saying. Fondling, being touched inappropriately in a workplace, in an office, in a church. Happens even in the church. Some of the things I come across are very worrying. If I tell you, say, does that happen in church? Okay? Does that happen in church, Priscilla? Yes, it does. In the church, I thought we were all born again. Maybe we are, but it happens. That is rape. What is rape? Both in the law, and this is in all jurisprudence around the world. Forcing yourself on someone without their consent. That's what we call it. Okay? Let me go to trauma number 2. Effects on humans of disruptive events. Effects on humans of disruptive events is what we call trauma. Why disruptive? Disruptive because once trauma sets in, so many things in your life become disrupted. Your relationships, your performance at work, education, marriage, sleep, feeding, appetite, and the physical body. In fact, in psychology, we combine 3 things. It's so simple, but not so simple. We combine 3 things. Number 1, thought processes. When you're coming from a critical incident, there are thought processes. From thought processes, you move to emotional pain. From emotional pain, you move to behavior problems. That's how it works. That means if you're coming from these disruptive events, and I will ask you a question, which are these disruptive events that we go through? Is there anyone here who has never lost a loved one? You have never lost anyone in your life who is so close, and you had the pain of grief. Everybody has. Okay? That causes deep trauma. Accidents, diseases. If people have terminal illnesses, they go into trauma. Addictions. Addictions causes trauma, and trauma causes addictions. It works both ways. People go into addiction because of trauma. Now, all these are critical incidents which when we go through, they cause trauma in our lives. There's what we call the shared trauma. Shared trauma is for military people who go through wars, like what is happening in Kismayo, in Somalia, with our own KDF. And I work among the KDF right in our country. I do programs in Kahawa Barracks, in Langata, and also in Kabete, Special Forces. Because in the military, it develops very quickly into acute PTSD. Acute PTSD. And so many people, our servicemen and servicewomen, after they stop fighting the real war, even when they come home, they continue fighting PTSD. Even when they retire to go to their homes at the age of retirement, they stop fighting this kind of a war. They go home to continue fighting another kind of fight. That is that anxiety. And all these things are working against us every single day. And I want us to look at, maybe I will just quote scriptures because we may not have time to look at everything. But trauma comes in two ways in your life. Trauma comes in two ways. Number one, trauma can come through direct involvement in a traumatizing situation. If it is you who lost your brother, lost a parent, lost a child, lost, like in the military when they are fighting and then your fellow soldier is shot down, they come home with that kind of trauma. And they ask themselves questions. Why did they get shot and I lived? That is trauma. Even when you see them burning, they are dead. They are so traumatized. But again, it is an area that is not really given a lot of attention, especially in the forces. And we need to do more. And that's why I say that we have a government today that is doing a lot in this area. In the military, there is something called TBI, trauma brain injury, TBI. Because trauma, research shows that it can develop into real brain injury if you're exposed to blasts, those blasts. But also we have what we call the moral injury, where you are forced to do something that ordinarily your conscience saying don't do it. But because you are in a working situation, you are forced to do it. It causes you moral injury. And this is a serious condition that actually takes trauma deeper and deeper. So that's number one. Number two, trauma also comes through what we call secondary trauma. Secondary trauma simply is when you see somebody going through something bad, or if they give you stories about something serious and nothing happens, you think you're okay because it is not happening to you, you take the trauma. It becomes part of you. In fact, even people like myself who are practicing psychologists, 8% of every trauma that I come across rubs on me as a therapist. 8%. That means if in every given week I'm seeing 10 people, I have 80% of mixed trauma from different people because I pick, it rubs on me. If I'm seeing Kanegeni in my office for 1 hour, 8% of his trauma rubs on me. If I'm seeing my friend Karigido and I'm with him for 1 week, for 1 hour, or 1 hour and a half, 8% of his trauma rubs on me. Can you imagine if I'm doing this every single day, every week, what is happening to me? I have serious mixed trauma by the end of the week. That is why in our field we do what we call supervision. We do not allow people to keep, even in a church like this one, and I do this a lot in our church. People who are seeing others, they are supposed to go through psychological debriefing. I don't know that we have not psychologists, whether we have counselors in the church. Do we have counselors at Milele and St. Margaret? They need a seminar to debrief. That means to take out what they have soaked in for so long. You know, because in secondary trauma, you become as sick as the person who was involved directly in a traumatic situation. It becomes worse with the time. So you need help. You need help. I ask a question, do we have counselors in the parish? Are there no counselors who help other people? What happens if somebody comes in They just need to be born again, like the gentleman who got saved today, but they need someone to talk to them, to listen to them. They need someone, like if somebody has a serious case at home, who do they talk to? The other area of that causes a lot of trauma is domestic abuse. People are fighting at home. Like during this pandemic, I've had so many cases of people fighting, man and wife. Economic strains has caused so much strain in their marriage. Who do they talk to in Marital PCA? Are there counselors? We need to create them if they are not there. That is a great area, Chairman. It's a great area. We need to train them, develop them, and be able to help. Then they can help other people. And this is what I'm doing in the military. Elder Kaligito, I have people working in the military, and they are helping their own people. Prisons. I have people working in the prisons. I have people working in the police, and they are helping their own people because you can't be everywhere. Churches. The first place I met Reverend Smooth Munyoroku was when I came to train at St. Margaret in Mombasa. That's how we met. I wanted to come and train. We were wondering where do we train. Then I was told there's a reverend in Mombasa who has offered their church. Then we can use it as a center for training. That's how I met Reverend, and he became my good friend. He was even in my class. Okay? And the benefits are huge because we talked one-on-one. And we were able to reach so many of you who came to that training. What I've given as simple talks like this cannot be able to develop serious counselors. I need to be able to sit with the people. Maybe a class of 20 people. Not many. Maybe 10 from St. Margaret, 10 from Milele. We put them through training. And I certify them as trained counselors, recognized by international body like American Bible Society, that they can go and work anywhere and help people. Sometimes there can be major problems here, like major catastrophic events in Mombasa. Do we have an association of counselors for Mombasa where people can say, can we call Milele to come? Like, for example, if there was a near crash, if a nearliner crashed in Mombasa, where would we get people to go and counsel those families? Where? In Nairobi, we have an association where we call each other. This organization, that organization, we all come together. We form a huge team, and we move into situations like the fire of the Moi girls. We were there for Moi girls when one girl lit fire to burn other children. We have to be prepared as a city. And PCA Church is a major church that can lead in this, in making interventions in areas where there is problem with trauma. Can I tell you why you need to be involved as a church? Trauma is a major problem when it comes to faith, because trauma causes a crisis of faith. The reason why people don't want to be involved with God is because they are going through trauma. If you tell someone who is going through grief that they need to believe in God, they tell you no. The problem is God. They say, where was God when my child died? Where was God when my wife died? They won't listen about God. But the only love they will receive is somebody sitting next to them. And let me tell you, if you're dealing with someone who has been through grief, you don't have to tell them useless things. This is what people do. Tunawambia mambo nyingi ambayo isaidi. Just be around. Just be around them. This is enough. Until when they will be able to be ready. Don't even read scriptures. Don't even do so many things. Just be around them. And you have people in this church who are losing their loved ones. Do we put the family members who have been left by their loved ones through counseling programs for 6 weeks, for 8 weeks, and they need it? Do we do it? We need to do it. We need to do it. Actually, this talk I'm giving to you today is exposing a major gap that needs to be filled, where we need real counselors who can be able, you don't have to be a psychologist. We develop them as counselors who can be able to go and see those families. When I was here with the Reverend Munyoroku, we visited a family somewhere, and I think I was with some of you. And we consulted with that family, and we read scriptures. Can I tell you, The moment we leave that family, when we bury their dead, even this year I've seen you've buried a few people, haven't you? Have you buried a few people this year? Some of you are my friends on Facebook, and I see postings about loved ones that have been buried. What do we do after we bury their loved ones? We come to church and continue. Is that what we want to do? Come to church and continue as normal? Can I tell you something? They will never be normal, those people. Even if you're here listening to me and you've been left by a loved one, you will never be normal. You will never get over it. You know, people tell others, come on, snap out of it. Ata sisi tulithiwa. Have you heard things like that? Or you hear things like, God loved them. We loved them, but God loved them more. Have you heard about useless statements like those ones? They are all over the place. People do not know what to say to people who have been believed. That's why we need to develop people who can do it. Okay? What about children? Let me go to the children cases, because this is serious. We need to think about children, and I would like to say this quickly, because I know today our time has not gone well since morning. We have been late so much. But let me run through this quickly and see what is happening to us when trauma is happening. Now, I've already said something that is very, very critical. And I want you to listen to this. Trauma creates a crisis of faith. People no longer want to believe in God after they have gone through crisis of trauma because of a critical incident, like death of a loved one. But also, trauma takes away their voice. They don't want to talk about it. Are there areas of your life that you can't talk about today? Are there things that you can't say? Are there topics that when they come up, you go like, can they stop that one? I better walk out if they don't stop it. Is there an area of your life that you don't want somebody to go into? That is an indicator of trauma. It's a symptom. Okay? Are you sleeping 7-8 hours every night of uninterrupted sleep? If you're not sleeping for those long hours, that is a symptom of trauma. Are you having problem with relationships? There are people who cannot even stay for a few more weeks with a friend. Or even marriage problems. Marital issues. We call it marital distress. What are we doing about it? How do you deal? There are many of us who came into a marriage without going through the normal process of counseling. Can I tell you something? No couple, whether in Kenya or in whatever country, no couple will go into a marriage before I take them through premarital counseling. Because people spend $1 million shilling preparing for a wedding, but they spend zero preparing for a marriage. Oh, the dress. Oh, the long car that I want to be in my wedding. Oh, the train of my gown. Oh, I don't know the suit. Oh, I don't know we are importing what from where. 1 million, 2 million. One wedding, one day. And this poor couple have never been prepared by anybody about 50 years of marriage that is coming. Trauma takes away your voice because trauma causes you shame and embarrassment. You don't want to talk about it because you become ashamed. There are family issues that we can't talk about today because we feel shame and we need to be able to deal with them. I call this facing up to your trauma. I want you to help me talk to your neighbor. Tell them, face up to your trauma. Thank you. Face up to your trauma. It is the time to face the giants. Amen. If you've been running away, because traumatized people are in a crisis. They are running from the past and they are afraid of the future. But this is the time to turn around and say, okay, I want to face what has been bringing me down. Healing begins when you can put your finger on what pains you. Healing begins when you can talk about it. Is there something in your life that you can't talk about? Anything that you can't talk about in your life is out of control. Let me say that on this side. Anything that you can't talk about in your life is out of control. And that is why you need to face up to it, because you can't talk about it. All right? I want to dwell a little bit on grief. Maybe for a few minutes on grief. What is grief? Grief happens when we lose something that is so close, so variable, so important in our lives. What are some of the things that we lose? Anybody? Would you know? What do we lose in life? And then we begin to go into trauma. Now I want you to talk to me. In my trainings, I use what we call participatory learning. Nobody just sits. It's not a lecture class. We all talk together. I learn from you, you learn from me. Yes? Yes. Thank you. Can you clap for the young man? When we lose our loved ones, okay, it causes deep trauma that is coming from grief. What else do we lose in life? Relationships. Thank you. Let's appreciate him. Relationships. You had loved someone, then one day they send you a text. Ladies, are you here? They send you a text and say that I no longer. I moved. Okay. You know what that means. People take their lives because of that, and we are ignoring it. Are there people here who have been jilted? They told you how much they love you. Then before the wedding, boom. Okay? Or even after you had gone to the wazazi kupeleka kufanya introduction, then boom. Then you had taken mahari, walikuwa hata wamekuja nyumbani kuleta mahali, boom. Has that happened to people? Or do we just want to bury our hands in the sand and say it doesn't happen? Relationships. It is happening. Including relationship between father and children. Mother and children. We may be here with the people who don't see eye to eye with their own children. They don't call home. They don't talk to you anymore. Your sisters, your brothers. Mlitoka tumbo moja, but they have no use for you. Does it pain you? People pretend that it doesn't pain them, but it pains them. It pains them. So that is trauma. That is trauma. So I've said two things. Trauma is a what? Come on, Milele. Is a hurt wound. Okay? Number two, trauma is effects on humans of disruptive events like accidents, grief, rape, terminal illnesses, disasters, shared trauma, and on and on and on. Let's go back to the hurt wounds. When people are traumatized from critical incidents in life, a wound forms in the inside. A wound forms. This wound that forms in the inside is what we refer to as trauma. Okay? I don't know that I don't know that are you a medical doctor? Is that what you are? Now, trauma, there's the normal trauma, like if you are hit in the leg and then there is pain. That's what we call that trauma. Okay? And Daktari will confirm that. But what happens in the physical happens in the mind. If we have physical wounds, we have psychological wounds, emotional wounds. If these wounds are not healed, they are not treated, they fester, they become worse. That means the pain becomes buried alive inside your heart. Kwani wanachoma makaa? Mnajua ile makaa inachomwa? Miti inawekwa, inakava na majani, na mchanga, moto inahakishiwa pale, kulikuwa kunaitwaje? Moto inahakishiwa hapo. Moto ikishika pia hiyo inafunikwa. na inawekwa huherio. Mnajikanga huherio. Yeah? I'm calling them in the Greek language because I don't know the any other word. Where inatorea moshi, kwetu inaitwa huherio. Now, if you are running at night and you found that mlima ya makaa and you do not know that there is fire inside, you will walk over it or run over it and put your legs inside, and your legs, what will happen? You'll be badly burnt. Now, that is what happens inside the hearts of people with trauma. Pain is buried alive deep inside their hearts. Can I submit to you? Any critical incident that you never dealt with, any critical incident that has happened to you and you've never dealt with, it has not gone anywhere. It is still inside your heart. Some of the problems that I'm dealing with today, I have people who are maybe 60, 70, and this is the first time they say, I was raped when I was 5 years, and I've never talked about this. Can you imagine 70 years, and she never talked to anybody? A man who went through a bad divorce, they are now in their 70s, and this is the first time they are saying, that divorce, when I lost that person, I never settled in this new marriage. And their children are already having children. So they have grandchildren from that relationship, but they have never recovered from the loss of a relationship. You can see that? Can you see that? So it can stay with you for so many years, and it causes death. The physical aspect, if the pain is inside the heart for a long period of time, I said 3 things will happen. Critical incidents move you towards mental processes. Fikira zinakuwa nyingi. You process and the brain can't handle it. If I had time, I would break down the hippocampus. You know, how does it deal with trauma? All these parts of the brain. Then, because the brain can't handle it, it passes it over to the emotions. He's here. Because the emotions cannot handle, they also move it somewhere else. Where does the emotional area move the pain to? In the body. That is why major sicknesses, diseases, including diabetes, cardiovascular challenges that people have, the ones that you take to Dr. Kanegen, most of them started as trauma that was never dealt with. Some of the cases I'm dealing with in Nairobi are referrals from Aga Khan Hospital. Somebody goes to the hospital, they are treated, then a doctor friend calls me and says, Daktari, we are giving you this person because we have treated them with medication. We need to go now to the root cause and find out where did they start. Then we can begin dealing with it. I have people from different hospitals because you can be healed in the body through medication and all the tests and everything else. But we do not want this condition to recur. That is why we have to go deep and find out ilianza wapi. Ilianza wapi. If it is a pain in the stomach, pain in the back, the legs, migraines, there are so many conditions that are happening. Now, let's look at anxiety because I want to close this maybe in another 10 minutes. I'll be done. Let's look at anxiety. I say trauma will develop into PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. PTSD is a serious kind of anxiety. Okay? Anxiety is among serious mental disorders. The other one is MDD, major depressive disorder, depression. Many people will go to depression. But listen to this. There are 10 things that trigger anxiety in your life. When I'm mentioning them, I want you to see whether is there any of them that could be in your life. 10 things that will trigger anxiety. Number 1, overstimulating environments like parties, like busy working environment can be serious triggers for anxiety. Those people who are very busy in their offices. And I've dealt with this case, especially some of the people who are busy in the government, in the private sector. and they are not able to cope with the situations and circumstances that they are going through because you can only be able to take in so much. That can be a red flag for anxiety. Okay? Number 2, tight deadlines. Exams, work, projects, things that we have to complete within timelines and quickly can be triggers for anxiety. Those timelines. Some of them we put them on ourselves. This one I have to finish by this time. This one I have to finish by this time. It begins to come into the body. Because other than the pain being buried deep inside the heart, the body will begin to soak in so much pressure that you begin to become sick. There are times when you go to the daktari and you run tests and they will say, I didn't find anything wrong with you. Take this medicine. They advise you, go do this and this and this. You know, it is because the problem is not with the body. The body is only sucking or soaking in from the brain. So the brain is not coping with the situation. Okay? And number 3, let me move quickly because of time. Sleep disturbances. Sleep disturbances can be a major trigger for anxiety. I said people need to be able to sleep between 7 and 8 hours for adults. Children will sleep longer because they are growing up. You see, like this one is already asleep. He doesn't even know whether he's at home or where he is. That's the beauty about children. But as you grow older, sleep begins to become lesser and lesser. And sleep can be an indicator of anxiety. If you are not able to sleep 8 hours or 7 hours of uninterrupted sleep. Underline uninterrupted. Not sleeping for 2 hours and waking for another. No. Not going to the toilet every 1 hour. But you are able to do a block of sleep. Are you still here? Excess work or responsibilities can be a trigger as well. Circumstances that are predominantly outside of one's control. Are there areas of your life that you feel this is beyond me? I can't handle this. That can become a trigger for anxiety. Chronic pain. Chronic pain. We have chronic PTSD. Chronic post-traumatic stress disorder. Any pain that remains with you for several weeks until you begin getting used to how to live with it. That's chronic. Now, chronic pain can be an anxiety trigger. All right? So we need to be able to understand that pain that remains with you and you do nothing about. You take medicine, doesn't go away. It can finally become a trigger for anxiety. Difficult life transitions, major changes that happen in the family. This can become a major problem. Are there people who judge you or criticize you? That can be a trigger as well. Are there moments and times of uncertainty and instability that can become a major trigger? How do you recognize that you have these things? How do you recognize? At Nico Nai, this is part of my life. Because that's why, remember what I've said earlier, that healing begins when we can put a finger on the trauma that in the Yoshida. And this is what we call emotional intelligence. The EQ. Emotional intelligence. Being able to understand what is going on with you and using that understanding to manage your feelings and emotions and use them positively in your life is what we call emotional intelligence. In emotional intelligence, we are able to fully understand what we do not know. And we're able to put our finger on it. It's a doctor called Don Colbert who says, what you do not know might be killing you. What you do not know might be killing you. Now, how do you know that there are issues that are happening with you? If you have insomnia, you are unable to sleep, panic attacks, your whole system is reacting in a way you are wondering, what is happening to me? You can't even concentrate. This is what we call executive functions of your brain. Executive functions of your brain is your ability to process, plan, and execute things in your life, whether office, whether family. That's what we call executive functions. If your executive function abilities have been greatly compromised, then it can be a serious condition. And you'll be able to tell that I am going through anxiety. Executive functions. Do you need reassurance all the time? You need people to tell you it's okay, it's all right. If you need this excessively, people to reassure you, then that can be a major indicator. Red flags. What is happening to people's lives? Lack of patience. Lack of patience. Constant worrying. Avoidance. What is avoidance? There are situations in your life which you would rather not face up to. You want to run away. Traumatized people want to run away. They don't want to face up to situations in their lives. That's why I say that anything that you can't face up to or you can't talk about is already out of control. We call that avoidance. Overthinking. Overthinking. What is overthinking? Your mind is not able to process something and finish and dispense with. That means you touch on this one, you think about it, you go to this other one, you think about it. Your mind is processing so many things at the same time, and nothing is coming to a close. It moves to what we call mental fog. Mental fog. Have you driven to Naivasha on a cold season? I drove there this week. Before I came, I drove to Naivasha like the previous day. There's a place they have a signpost. Drive carefully. Visibility poor. Now, we call that a fog. We also have what we call mental fog. You are no longer able to make decisions. We call this cognitive difficulties. You can't make decisions. Priscilla. They are the simple ones. When you stand before your wardrobe and you say, which one can I wear today? Which one, that time you are pointing at the dresses. Which one can I wear today? And you don't like this one. You say, let me start from here. Which one can I wear today? This is okay. All right? Mental fogs. Now, that's okay. Women have an issue with that one. You drive outside, you are waiting for her in the car, and she's not coming out. And you're saying, what are you still doing in the house? I can't find a dress to wear. Have you ever? And they have 100 of them in the closet. But they can't find a what? A dress to wear. Now, that is simple. It's normal for them. Okay? And that's why I say that we need to understand the differences between men and women, how they do processes, mental processes. It's different. The man knows whichever the first trouser they find, and they put on. Okay? The shirt, some of them, they can even repeat their shirts. The one they had worn last week is not been washed. If you're not careful, mama, you find him in the shirt he had worn because it still looks clean. But women are meticulous in planning. That's women. I think one of these days we need to talk about these things. Then we can stop fighting because that's how she is. When we understand each other better, then the fight comes to an end. But I'm talking about serious issues in life where you can't make decisions, cognitive difficulties in your life. You cannot perform at workplace, at school. You can't concentrate in anything to do with your exams that are coming. That is a serious red flag. Rapid heartbeat. We know when our heart's palpitations are moving quickly and faster. Sweating, stomach issues, headaches and pains, which are migraines. Now, those are areas that are real indicators about something that is happening. Let's talk about children. Can we talk about children for 2 minutes? And I wanted you to ask me questions today also. I didn't want to talk about this and finish it off. If I talk about children, you're not going to ask me questions. Are there questions up to now? Any questions? Hello, Milele. Chair? Okay. Yeah. Yes, you can. If you would like to write questions, you can actually do that. Okay? Especially if you're feeling like you can't talk about it, it's okay to be able to talk to to me through writing. That would be very okay. Okay? So you can take a piece of paper and write, and then we can be able to deal with it and find answers to the questions that you may be having. I'll answer all of them in a short while.
Bwana asifiwe. Nauliza swali.
Yes, go ahead.
Can rejection bring trauma?
Can what?
Rejection.
Yes.
Can it bring trauma?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, it is. Rejection it is. And abandonment. Feelings of being rejected and abandoned can be triggers also. That something traumatic has taken place in your life. So that is a good question. Thank you, brother. There are people who feel rejected and left out in families, in relationships. They feel abandoned. Okay? Ile tunaita kuachiliwa, niliachiliwa. Nobody has used for me in the family. Yes, that is a serious thing. And it is moving so many people into suicide. Some of them haven't finished the plan, but they keep toying with the idea. We call this suicidal tendencies. And for us, as mental health professionals, we see it as a suicide, whether it has happened to the compression or not. It is still being suicidal. Okay? It has to be treated. That's what I'm saying. So that's a good question. There was another hand over here. Yes? Where? Okay.
Bwana asifiwe.
Amen.
Me, I wanted to ask about the children. You had said that you are going to talk about the children who are traumatized. For example, the child who has lost a parent at a tender age. How do we help such a child?
Okay. I'll touch on children for a short time. So just allow that for a little bit of time. Put it in the refrigerator. We'll deal with it right now. Go ahead.
I have a question. If, for example, you're about to do something and you get scared, is that being nervous or is it...
and you can talk in any language.
Or is it a panic attack? Or they're the same thing?
You can help him, chair of the education board. If you understand what he's saying, you can actually help him. You ask me the question.
Asking, when you're about to do something, for example, presenting, and your heart beats very fast.
Okay.
Is that being nervous or a panic attack?
Oh, thank you. How old are you? 11. Thank you. What's your name?
Jaden Deritu.
Thank you. Now, it's normal. It's normal to have some nervousness where you feel like, what is happening to me? You feel nervous. There's a bit of heart beating. You're sweating. It's normal. We call that anxiety. There's the normal anxiety. There's the normal anxiety. But the kind of anxiety I'm talking about is that which remains with you. Because that one, the one you're talking about, ends within no time. Maybe if you're asked to speak in a public meeting, your heart begins to beat faster. Okay? If you're about to do your exams, your heart begins to beat faster. That is normal. But if anxiety remains with you for like a period of 2 weeks, you still have your whole system on edge. That's what we call it. On edge. Hyperarousal. We call it hyperarousal. You feel like your whole system is not coming down. Then you need to be seen by a professional. Okay? But this still normal, which may be once you are done with speaking the meeting or doing the exam, your whole system now calms down. That is okay. Okay? Yes?
Is forgetting easily part of trauma?
Sorry?
Forgetting easily.
Forgetting. Okay. Okay, thank you. Forgetfulness is a major problems when it comes to cognitive impairment. We call that cognitive impairment. If you are forgetting too much, you forget things all the time, then there's a problem that is going on. And you need to talk about it. A professional will be able to sit with you and go through the problem with you and he or she will be able to pick out what is the issue. Once you deal with the real issue, your memory comes back. But memory can be lost over a period of time because of trauma. So that is very, very true.
And what
Okay,
about,
let me touch on, just give me a minute. Let me touch on child trauma. Okay? Can we, then I'll come back to you. I'll come back to him. Let's touch on child trauma, especially when it comes to grief. Child trauma. You can keep taking the papers. Now, grief, every child, and I want you to listen to me because most of you are young parents. Even if you're not young parents, you're grandparents. We have young children all over where we are at. Okay? All right? You can even put your number on that paper. If you can ask a question and put a number on it, if I'm not able to answer it today, I'll still answer it at some point. That will still be okay if you want to do that. Feel free to do that. Now, when children are traumatized, there's a way children will behave. And it is okay for Sunday school teachers and Sunday school patrons. It is important for them to be able to undergo training on how to recognize trauma in young children. And here we have so many. When we were driving in with Ruth, there were so many over there. So many of them. How do we get to know whether they have trauma, those children? Just as I asked earlier. Because some problems will not be solved at home. Because the problem is home. The problem will be solved in church. You understand what I'm saying? There's one child that I've been seeing in my office who is a pilot. But I realize after I see him, he goes back to a dysfunctional home where it is so toxic. And I realize that I also need to treat the parents. So sometimes I will start with a child, and then I would call the parent and say that I need to see you as well. Because there's no point of treating a child who is going back to a dysfunctional home. Remember I said 60% of adult trauma started from childhood. 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, 15 years, 16 years. And nobody did anything about it. Because children are only there to be seen. Have you seen when adults want to eat and watoto wanaambiwa, ebu mutoke hapa? Because adults want to do what? To eat. Have you been to forum? It doesn't happen in Marital PCA. Can't happen here. But have you been to functions where children are told that go away, go and sit somewhere? Because adults want to do what? To eat. And I always wonder, can't we start with the children? Because children cannot be able to stay hungry. But I've been in meetings where children are being asked to go away, that they may give room to children, to adults to eat. This is happening. So we need to be able to take care of these children. In children homes, all our classes on child trauma, we take students to an orphanage or children home, and they stay with them for a week so that they are able to see and to practically be able to deal with the pain that children are going through. And the things I teach them in class, when we go for practical work in a children's home, they begin to see it in children. So how do these children behave? There's a question I want to ask. How do traumatized children behave? And maybe you're asking me, and how do adults who are traumatized behave? There are 3 things that happen to people who are traumatized. Number 1, every traumatized person, whether a child or an adult, they will go through what we call re-experiencing. That means their mind keeps going back to the critical incident. And until you ask them to draw, because they can't talk. Some of them, they can't talk. Like child who was here. The only way I'm able to reach his heart is I become a friend to him. I buy pizza. We sit and eat pizza together. They begin to open up to me. We become friends. Then, because they can't explain, I ask them to draw pictures of their trauma. Once they draw the picture, it is easier now for me to pick it from there. Because now they can talk to me about what is in the picture. Okay? So, re-experiencing. you keep going back to where the pain happened. You can't be able to move forward because your mind keeps going back to the same pain. Now, in the brain, I mentioned something, hippocampus. In the hippocampus, this is where all data in your brain is stored. All data. Whether 2 years, whether yesterday, whether 10 years, whether 50 years, all data is stored here. But in the brain of a traumatized person, the brain is affected to an extent that it's no longer able to arrange anything. Even the brain size becomes smaller, and the functions are also distorted. That is why re-experience happens. The pain that happened 20 years ago will pain you today, just like it happened today. Time doesn't go anywhere. That's why I told you earlier, the lie of time is the best healer, not on mental health. You keep remembering, and you keep making you worse with the time. So re-experiencing or going back all over again, or what we call flashbacks. Flashbacks. You try to move on, but the pain comes. You ignore, but the pain comes. And this can happen when you are sleeping or even when you are awake. Nightmares are part of trauma. Nightmares. You wake up sweaty and feeling and screaming. It's part of the trauma. You need healing. Okay? Okay? Re-experiencing. That is something we need to be able not to ignore. We can't ignore it. Okay? Then there is what we call avoidance. Avoidance. What is avoidance? In avoidance, we run. Traumatized people want to run. But let me tell you, you can never run away from your trauma. You can never run away. You can ignore it. You can try to look the other way. And that's what trauma does to so many people. People try to forget. And I hear people saying, I am trying to forget it. Tunajaribu kusahau. Maybe they lost a loved one. And they are saying, tunajaribu kusahau na Mungu anatusaidia. But let me tell you, avoidance, you are only running away from something that is running after you. So you can never run away finally. It will catch up. 10 years, it catches up. Actually, there are people with the layers of trauma. They lost a loved one in 20 days. They lost another one in 20 days. There was this also other problem in the family. This also came up. Different things came up. They have a layer kama ile kitunguu. Unajua ile kitunguu ya bulb? Ya ngwashe. Unajua ile kitunguu? Wacha hii ya miti. You can peel the layers of their lives like this. Okay? And that's what we do. There are people I stay with for long periods of time. Maybe a whole 1 year. Because we are peeling one piece after the other. Okay? People who have so many incidents, critical incidents, crises, that were never dealt with, they are more prone to serious mental disorders than those people who had issues the other day and they are dealing with it. That is why I always advise, never sit with a problem, always talk about it. If you can't talk to a doctor, talk to your spouse. Do they listen to you? Unajua huwa nasikia huyu anisikilizangi. Spouses, we need to listen to each other. Your best doctor is right within your own house. Come on now. Your best doctor is where? Your best doctor is right within your own. That's why we need functioning relationships. We need people to be able to tell each other. You know, I don't like this strange thing about couples where you can't talk to your own. You know, your spouse is your best friend. Did you know that? That's why you got married. People marry their best friends, if you didn't know. If you are here and you're not married, don't rush into something that looks like could be funny. We marry our best people we can come home to and say, I want to talk to you. Even before they talk, you can say, honey, there's something you have in your chest. Can we talk about it? Okay? How many people have that kind of a spouse at home? They come home. Thank you. They come home. Wow. Is she the one sitting next to you? Is she the one? She's like that? Wow. This is beautiful. They come home to tell you the challenges they have at the workplace. They don't talk to their pastor first. They first talk to you. Okay? If they talk to the pastor first, it means at home things are not doing well. The first person you talk to is your own spouse. So I want spouses to be best friends. And if they are not best friends, we need a seminar to make them best friends. Come on now. Amen. And those who are not married yet, we want them to meet up people who can they develop a relationship. And the moment you feel I can talk to him, I can talk to her about anything. Do you remember the Garden of Eden, chapter 2, Genesis? And the man and the woman were both, and they were not. What is that? It's not about just the physical nakedness. It's about talking your heart out. You can open your heart and talk about it, and you don't have the fear of being judged. You have no fear of being rejected. You have no fear of being abandoned. You have no fear of being ashamed and embarrassed, because you can be yourself with this person and never feel ashamed. Hello? Do you have a spouse like that? Do you have a best friend like that? Do you have a parent like that? Even your child needs to have a parent like that. Did you know that? Your child needs to have a parent. They can say, Mommy, this is what happened to school. A child touched me on my chest. This is a girl. A child touched my bum bum. You know the bum bum? Mm-hmm. Children are raped at home for 3 years. Listen to me. A child is raped at home for 3 years by their daddy, and they have never told their mommy. 3 years. You and your daughter, who is 5 years of age, 10 years of age, you are married to the same man within the same family. And for 3 years, you have never known it. The third way of behavior is hyperarousal. Hyperarousal is to be on alert. You behave like something bad is going to happen all the time. Your system gives you signals that there's something wrong, something dangerous, something bad is about to happen. That is what we call hyperarousal. It's a simple word. Don't feel it. Hyperarousal is the same hyper, the way we say child is hyper, then to be aroused. Combine the two, hyperarousal. Okay? Being on alert all the time, behaving like something bad is about to happen, living on the edge. I can put so many words in it. The Kikuyus say that they go get hukoda. Have you heard? That's my mother tongue. I don't know what it is in your language. People feel like something bad is about to happen. They behave like around the corner, something wrong is going to happen. That's what we call hyperarousal. If people are behaving that way, then already they are going through this. How does grief counseling help the children? I've just told you how they will behave. There are those who will not be playing. If you see a child who doesn't like to play, they are going through trauma. If you see a child isolating, they are going through trauma. If you see a child quiet, even in your own house, don't beat them. If you see a child performance in school has gone down, don't beat them. Talk to them. If you can't talk to them, let a doctor who has understanding on dealing with the child psychology help them. Don't beat them because their performance has gone down. And this is what is happening in schools. We keep beating children because they are not getting the grades. And what you not know, since they lost their grandmother, the grades went down. But you have no understanding what is happening. Check out for critical incidents in the lives of children. What happened? At what point did this go down? Check what was happening around that time, and you'll be able to help that child. If you can't do it, bring them to me. Bring them to me. I'll be able to pick out what is happening. But don't beat them. Beating does not help. It has its place, but not always. Not always. All right? So, how does this help? How does counseling help children? Can we put children through counseling? Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Are there behavior problems? Bigger children, like teenage children, we isolate from you as the father and the mother. They will begin having their little secrets. They don't want you to go to their room. They are withdrawn and isolated. There are those who will begin to do bad things, behavior problems in children. There are those who will begin using drugs. Maybe you have teenagers who are using drugs. Or a child is always on these phones. Do you see these smartphones we buy children? Mine has an iPhone. Mine, I bought them this. Let me tell you, sometimes that is the worst thing if you haven't trained them on how to use them. Okay? Recently, there's a TV station that asked me about parenting. And I said, the people we need to deal with are those parents, not even the children. And they told me that, oh, you gave us a new angle. I said, this parent has never trained the child. Okay? And now we are talking about the behavior problems of this child in Form 4, in Form 2. If I'm dealing with a child with the behavior problems, I go back to the upbringing. I want to know, what kind of a family did you grow up in? What was happening? I get that information both from the child and from the parent or the grandparent. And I'm able to tell if they grew up in a family where there were issues, then no wonder they are becoming this way. Now we have to heal them from that point. Okay? So this is it. Children of all ages can have difficulty processing loss. All ages. They will have, if you don't move quickly with me, I said I'm finishing it in a few minutes, then I can read a few papers. Before Elder Kanagani tells me we are out of time, so I'll move with it quickly. So write it down quickly. You write it down quickly, especially young parents or prospecting parents. Okay? Prospecting parents. Write it down so quickly. Children of all ages can have difficulties when it comes to processing a loss. And I've found in children, they don't process it in the same way as adults. They process it differently. And you will see this. But they have a problem. And listen to me, young parents. Don't lie to your children. Never lie to your children. Even if they are whatever age. By the time a child begins to ask a question, they are ready for what? For information. But answer them according to their age. There's a way you will talk to a 5-year-old. There's a way you can talk to a 15-year-old. It is not the same. But you are addressing one and the same issue. All right? So they process differently. And you will see this. Children have a problem understanding that death is permanent. They have a problem understanding that death is permanent. What will they do? I've recent death in a client. They lost their father. But the children are wondering, why did we put him inside that place in the soil? Are we going to call him out? They keep asking the mother. And you see, mothers who have lost their husbands, they are emotionally unavailable for their children because they are also dealing with their own emotional pain. That's why you have to turn them over to someone else to help them. You understand what I'm saying? So you can't be emotionally available for yourself, and at the same time, you are emotionally available for the child in a way that a child will be able to be healed. Both of you are sick because you are coming from a serious critical incident called grief and loss. Remember we said earlier, all grief comes from loss. If there is grief, there is what? Loss. Whether you lost your hand, you lost your eyesight, you lost your job, okay? You are nearing retirement, like the golden ages, we had them here today. And you know, I've realized, in my own work, I've realized among the people we need to take care of are those older people. Older people. We ignore them. Nobody talks to them. They come to church, they go away. They are alone. They are lonely. There's nobody at home. The husband died. Kids are gone. The mom is at home alone. Please. Those are the people the church is supposed to be taking care of. If you look in the Bible, and I can anchor what I'm telling you in the scriptures, we need to take care of those old. They suffer trauma of old age because they feel abandoned and rejected. By who? The same children who are the age of their own personal, their own children. So we need to be able to do that. Children have the fear of losing someone else in the family. If you have a child who is in a family where a loved one was lost, they live in the fear of losing another member of the family. They keep wondering, who else are we going to lose? Is it my mom? My dad is gone. Is it my mom now? They may even ask you, Mommy, are you going to die also? Or are we going to put you inside the soil? These children recently, they're asking their mom, why did we put daddy in the soil? Because they saw the casket go down and they had seen the body. And this is 8 years and 5 years. They saw the box go down. So they are wondering, they don't understand. They are processing something that is not helping them. And who can help them process it well? Their best friend, who is their own parent. That's why we need to empower the parents to know how to deal with child trauma. All right? So they live that fear of whether another loved one is going to die in the family. They don't know who is next. All right? The children also have a problem on how to process uncomfortable emotions. They have a problem of how to deal with uncomfortable emotions. And this will happen mostly because they don't know what is the right way to express emotions and which is the wrong way. It's just like, have you been around someone who lost a close family friend? Adults have a problem of knowing how to behave around someone who lost a loved one. There is so much I can say about children, and I would like to leave it at that. Maybe I will answer a few questions from the papers, maybe from my brother here, and then I'll be done. Maybe I'll be done. Okay. Are there verbal questions that we can deal with quickly? I've left out a whole area about children because we can't be able to finish up. Some of you are looking at me with eyes that I can see they are about to close. They are praying for me. They are interceding for me. Yeah. If you put your numbers there, I can be able even to text you or even call you back. Don't worry about it. If you can't handle everything. I also need to give my number. If somebody has a serious issue that you do not know how to deal with, you don't know how to deal with, you are dying with it, don't die with it. Let's talk. Let's talk about it. And we can talk about anything. We can talk about anything. So I'll give out my number, and I know quite a number of the leadership, they have it. Okay? Yes?
Mine was about sometimes it happens like I've seen the tourists who came in Mombasa, they normally sleep during the day, and during the night they don't have a sleep. And then I've also, maybe you gone to a sleep, you want to sleep, you are disturbed. Maybe you start thinking a lot of things, and you are tired and you are not getting a sleep. Another thing is that you can see somebody who is walking and is talking for himself. Is that a problem or a trauma?
Okay. Did you hear the question? You heard the question. Of course, that is a problem of trauma. Of course it is. Somebody is not able to sleep. You're tired from work. You're supposed to go home. Sleep is so important. Sleep is so important. If you can't sleep and you're tired, this is a big problem. And the problem needs to be dealt with. And that is traumatic. Even walking on the road, talking to yourself. Talking to yourself. And I said earlier that we shouldn't stigmatize anybody because people say that, oh, you see, that's what they say. Atu kichwa yake ilifanya nini? Iliruka. They have issues. They can be treated. Because kogoroka in Kikuyu is a serious thing for Kikuyus. Wewe unde kogoro? Digithia goma. Have you heard people tell each other like that? Why do they say things like that? Because Goma, you know Goma are demons, and it's about mental. That is a mental case. So trauma has been stigmatized so much that people hide it. It's time to talk about it now. It's time to talk about it. If somebody is working on their own talking, and if you see somebody behaving this way, please reach out to them and talk to them. Okay? Yeah. And if you can't help them, and I'll say this to the church, if there is a case in church that you can't be able to deal with, refer. Don't keep quiet, refer. It's okay to agree that this is beyond me. Some of the many cases I'm dealing with are actually referrals. And I have many referrals, especially from the US. People have been going through, especially our Kenyans who are living in the US. They try to go to a Muzungu, they can't even connect, even culturally they can't. They have gone for 5 sessions and nothing is happening. They are still on a suicide mission. And I'm seeing quite a number. It's because I can connect with them in another way. So if you can't handle a case, refer them. Don't let somebody die in their trauma. Okay? We need to be able to deal with these issues. I don't know how many more questions we can take because I have hands in the air. Over here. The lady. Then we can come to you. Maybe then I can take another. I don't know if I can take another 1 or 2 questions and then we can close down. God bless you, Elder. Yes, over there.
So I have 2 questions.
Yes.
I have 2 questions. The first one is, do you have online classes for the counseling?
Do I have what?
Online classes for the American Bible School counseling. The second one is, can a parent who has trauma pass the trauma to the child, and how would the parent be able to recognize that they are passing on the trauma?
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Those are 2 questions. Yes, I do trainings online, like the countries, the Islamic countries, where I can't reach Muslim world, Arab countries. I'm doing a lot of work online. Some of them are one-on-one, others are groups. I'm doing that. We have a website which I think will be up and running maybe by tomorrow. I can share that maybe sometime, where you can get all the resources. But yes, I do that. Your second question is about how a parent passes trauma to a child. Yes, a parent can pass their trauma to a child. It happens a lot. Because if you are traumatized and you don't find healing for yourself, what will happen to you is you pass that, we call that bleeding on people who never hurt you. You bleed on people who never hurt you. If it's a boss, they bleed on the staff. If it's a teacher, they bleed on the students. If it's a parent, they bleed on the children because they have deep trauma themselves. They have deep trauma themselves. So we need to be able to deal with that parent, that they don't pass that trauma to the child. But if the child has been exposed to this trauma for a long period of time, then both of them, they need to be treated. Okay? All right. So I have you ask a question. The young man still has more questions.
I have one last question. Can any stigma cause trauma? Because, for example, I talk to myself sometimes when I have no one, let's say, to talk to me, or let's say no one is at home. So then, and then, trauma.
I don't know that I'm getting the question. That mic is not working.
I was saying,
Stigma.
yes,
Can stigma cause trauma?
like any stigma. Let's say, for example, I talk to myself when there's no one around,
Yes.
and then let's say someone hears me and then judges me about that. Can that cause trauma?
Okay, the reason why there is stigma is because trauma is already there. Okay? Trauma is already there. That's why there's stigma. If trauma wasn't there, there would be no stigma. Stigma stems from trauma. Because I said earlier that trauma causes fear, trauma causes crisis, trauma causes shame, trauma causes crisis. Because of this condition, it's a syndrome. It makes a person begin to suffer stigma. They don't want to talk about it. You talk to yourself because you fear talking to someone else. Because they will judge you. They will behave differently towards you. That's why you don't want to talk to anybody else. You keep it inside. So the fact that there is stigma is an indication that already there is unresolved trauma that needs treatment. Okay? Thank you. Thank you for the question. 11-year-old. Thank you. Now, I need to close it down because we can't be here forever and we may need enough time to be able to do this. Now, I have so many questions. Have you put your numbers on it? Because I can text you back. Yeah? These ones, I will deal with them in Nairobi. Is that okay? Are there hot ones that I need to answer right now? Hot ones, like something bad will happen if I don't answer right now. That's what I mean. The number. My number is 0722 311 563. 0722 311 563. That is Safaricom. I still have another number for Airtel. Airtel is the same number, only that the prefix is 0780. The rest of the numbers are the same. 0780. The rest of the numbers are the same. If you want to write an email, I don't know that the media team, anybody can project the numbers or the email. My email address is PMMBOGOH. That is Mbogo. Mbogo. Mbogo with an H. Mbogo. Mbogo with an H at gmail.com. Yeah? Sorry? The number is 0722 311 563 or 0780 311 563. Yes. The email address is PM. That is Peter. P for Peter. PM. M is Masharia. Then Mbogo. Mbogo has an H. So it is PM Mbogo. No space. At gmail.com. That is my website will be up. They have been working on it. It has really delayed a little bit, but it should be working maybe within the course of the week. Okay.
I had a final question. Yes. Do people who have anger management issues, have is it caused by trauma? Okay.
Thank you for that question. Now, anger is one of the areas that we deal with a lot. And the reason why anger is in it, just like stigma, people are angry because trauma is on their inside. They have issues they can't deal with and they can't talk about. They fear. They are embarrassed because trauma causes embarrassment. People cannot talk about it. So what do? They go to anger, especially I said men. Men are really hit by this one because they can't be able to deal with it. So, and men will try to be strong. Have you ever heard of a boy child being told that, are you a girl? Are you a girl now? Eh? Why are you behaving like a girl? Have you heard about that? Eh? Wow. 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 I was in church one Sunday, and I'm sitting, and there's a lady with a young boy like this, and the lady is telling the boy, "What's wrong with you? The boy didn't want to go to the Sunday school away. We have so many classes, depending on the age. But the child is coming to the main service with the mother, and the mother is telling the child, can you man up and go to the Sunday school? Can you? He's not a man, he's a boy. Unless we tell him, can you boy up? Which he can't. Can he even boy up? And you're telling him to man up? Yeah? That's how we treat the boys. But listen, anger is a camouflage. It's a mask. If people have trauma inside, they will mask it with anger. Especially men will do that. Women do it also. But the numbers on men is higher. That's why you find a man in the house doesn't talk to anybody. He's gloomy. He's just lost in the newspaper. The remote belongs to him. He's a sick man. He needs help. Okay? Don't hate them because they are that way. Pray for them and find out whether, in a wise way, whether they would like to talk to someone. Okay? There's a case I've been dealing with this last week, and I've been advising the lady on what to do. And finally the man has said, yes, I'll go see him. I'll go. But in the beginning, he didn't want to come. He didn't want to come. But I kept telling the lady what to do. This is what you do. This is what you do. This is what you do. Yeah? People don't want to be judged, especially. Don't judge anybody. Don't judge them. Don't hate them. Don't push them down. They're already down. What they need is to come up now. Understand expressions of their emotions. Why do they behave that way? And I always say, people behave the way they do because of where they are coming from. The background story of their lives. Some of you got married in families. You got married to someone who had a baggage of issues. Have you been to the airport? Yeah? Have you been to the airport? You see the way people are dragging bags, and they have others, and they are pushing the trolley. People come into the market with baggages. Those baggages need to be dealt with before they come in. If they come with those baggages, they will cause their spouse to carry them also. And then what will happen? What if they are tired of carrying them? Yeah? They will throw them out with their baggage. And then they are also left sick. Then the divorce or the separation makes both of them sick. So we don't want to create problems for other people. We need to be able to ensure that we are healed, that we may heal other people. Father, we thank you for the opportunity of coming together to share this message and to go deeper on the issues that affect our lives. I can only be able to do so much. Yet, Lord, we know that you are the healer. You are the healer of our lives. You touch our lives deeply. That, Lord, we find the balm. You are the balm of Gilead. The Lord that touches us. The Bible tells us in Psalms 34 that you will heal us from all the wounds of our lives. In Jeremiah 30, that all our wounds will be healed because we will turn to you, our healer and our balm. And therefore, Father, every case that we deal with today, may you bring healing in our lives. Even as we seek for help, yet we know that it is from you that we find help. Bless my listeners today. This church where I've been able to share with them since morning and even this afternoon on matters to do with the mental health. I pray that may you guide them. May you lead them. May you give them the courage to face up to their giants. May they turn around and face up to anything that was trying to bring them down. May the scars of the past never destroy their lives. May they look at them positively, knowing that scars only came because they overcame the wounds of their hearts. Thank you even for those cases that are ongoing, some of them which we need to deal with. Lord, I pray, may your peace keep the hearts of your people and the minds of your people. In Christ Jesus, our Lord. We even thank you for the chance that we've had sharing together. Should even give us another time in the future. We will be careful to thank you. We bless you and we magnify your name. We give you glory and honor, Master. We even thank you for the leadership of this church, the Reverend Joseph, and even the chairman, Kanegeni, oh God, and even all the leaders in this place who through their facilitation, we have been able to share and be able to talk about matters that touch the deep inside our hearts. We give you glory and praise and honor in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you, Chairman. Please, may you come.
Let's give a round of applause to Reverend Mbogo. I believe we are better than we came, and the patron clearly said, tell your friend, tell your neighbor that your life will never be the same again. I trust your life has been touched in one way or the other, and we give all God the glory. Let's give a praise to the Lord for what he has done this afternoon. Yeah, just before I give the chairman of Christian Education, once again, I want to say thank you so much, Reverend Mbogo. Thank you for sparing your afternoon for us. I know you'd have purpose to be back to Nairobi, but you spared and you honored that you'll be with us through the Christian education. Thank you so much, and God bless you. May He increase you, may He continue inspiring you, that you continue touching the heart of many. I can assure you, the work you are doing is touching many. It's not easy to combine the divine and combine the medical world. They are two different worlds sometimes. God bless you, my friend. To the Christian education, through their patron and the whole team, once again, as I said in the morning, thank you so much. It has been a robust week for the Christian education, and how we trust that all groups will envy the Christian education, that when you are given a week, it starts all the way from Monday up to Sunday and full of activities. The church is there to support. Thank you so much. Again, one more announcement I want to make clarity is about the brigade. The brigade, we announced they are going to St. Margaret. But the company of St. Margaret is training here, and the company of St. Margaret is training on in St. Margaret. So for the brigadiers, for St. Margaret, they'll come here from 14th to 18th, and not St. Margaret. It's good that you go and take that message back. Karibu Shem.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Wow, wow. Are we blessed? Are we blessed, everybody? At least to may learn something. Ama to may learn a lot. A lot. Kwa huyu mchungaji Mbogo ambaye amekuja akatusomesha. What do we tell him? Tumwambie aje? Haya, tumbariki. Abarikiwe, 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 abarikiwe sana. Thank you so much, mchungaji, for that session. We've come to the end of our seminar for trauma and healing. I would like us to close with the word of grace. Please, let's all be standing. We say word of grace. And now may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us now and forevermore. Amen.